What if I told you some of the biggest songs of the 1970s didn't start as serious music at all? They started as a wink, a dare, a studio joke that was never supposed to leave the room until it did. Welcome to 10 joke 1970 songs that started as parodies, then fooled millions. The countdown of tracks that began as satire, spoof, or pure mischief, and somehow ended up blasting from car radios like they were the real deal. Quick favor before we jump in. If you love music stories with hidden backstories, tap like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which song fooled you the hardest, or which one you still can't believe was made as a laugh. Alright, let's start with a melody you already know flipped into something nobody saw coming. Number 10. The Combine Harvester, Brand New Key, by the Wurzels, 1976.
I'll give you the key. Come on now, let's get together.
If you've ever sung this chorus like it's a proper British classic, here's the trick. It started as a melody that wasn't even theirs. The backbone is Melanie's Brand New Key, an early 70s earworm that was sweet, bouncy, and to a lot of people back then, a little too cheeky. Some radio folks side-eyed it. Some listeners insisted it had a hidden meaning. And while everyone argued, the tune just got bigger. Then, a band from Somerset shows up with a style they proudly called Scrumpy and Western. Translation? Jokes, a thick rural accent, cider-soaked charm, and absolutely no interest in sounding cool in a big city way. They weren't trying to beat pop music at its own game. They were trying to mess with it. And after losing their founder a couple of years earlier, this became part of their survival plan. Take a song everybody knows and flip it into something unmistakably local, packed with farm life references and pub-level mischief. That's exactly how Brand New Key turned into the Combine Harvester. Same irresistible bounce, but now the singer isn't skating around. He's making the most oddly specific flex imaginable. I've got a brand new Combine Harvester, and I'll give you the key. It's simple, it's silly, and that's why it works. Because when you fuse a melody you can't shake with lyrics that are just funny enough to quote, the audience doesn't overthink it. They join in. The wild part is, it didn't stay a regional gag. In June 1976, this parody hit #1 in the UK and held the top spot for 2 weeks. The joke became an anthem, the countryside went mainstream, and suddenly millions of people were singing about farm machinery like it was the most normal thing in the world. But if you think this is surreal, wait until a joke song is born not on a farm, but on national TV, right in front of everyone. In the charts, play along. Number 9. King Tut, Steve Martin and the Toot Uncommons, 1978.
How'd you get so funky?
In 1978, something happened that shouldn't have worked on any level. A TV joke got picked up by radio, and people didn't even treat it like a joke. Because America was in the middle of a very real obsession, King Tut fever. The touring exhibit of Tutankhamun's treasures became a full-blown cultural event in the late 70s. People waited in lines, bought souvenirs, talked about it like it was the biggest entertainment story in town. And whenever a whole country gets hypnotized by one thing, comedy writers start taking notes. Steve Martin saw the madness and did what he did best. He turned the hype up until it became ridiculous. King Tut didn't begin as a pop single idea. It began as a funky parody aimed at the way everything gets commercialized. He debuted on Saturday Night Live on April 22, 1978, and the performance was so elaborate it was reportedly one of the most expensive productions the show had attempted up to that point. But here's the dangerous part. The song was catchy enough to survive the punchline. Just days later, on April 28, 1978, King Tut was released as a single, with a backing group that wasn't random at all. The Toot Uncommons were actually musicians connected to the nitty-gritty dirt band, hiding behind a gag name so the joke could stay intact. And then the mistake turned into a miracle. It sold over 1 million copies and reached number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100. Suddenly, a comedy bit was being consumed like a legitimate funk hit. That's the secret logic of the joke hit. It fools you because it sounds like a real song first, and only later do you realize you've been laughing the whole time. But the next entry takes it even further because it didn't just mock a pop phenomenon, it chopped pop music into pieces and used the hits themselves as the punchlines.
Number 8. Mr. Jaws, Dickie Goodman, 1975.
Sheriff Brody, the shark will be back for lunch. What do you intend
This
to
one
do?
didn't just parody a blockbuster. It hacked the entire radio dial and turned it into the punchline. In the summer of 1975, Jaws wasn't just a movie, it was a national event. That two-note theme could make a whole room tense, and everyone had an opinion. Terrifying, genius, overhyped, whatever. You still knew the music. Dickie Goodman looked at that hysteria and basically thought, cool, what if I interview the shark? That's the setup for Mr. Jaws. Goodman plays a reporter chasing answers from the shark and the characters, Brody, Hooper, Quint. Except the answers aren't spoken lines. They're tiny, perfectly timed snippets from the biggest songs on the radio that year. 1 second you're hearing the Jaws theme, the next you're getting hit with a disco hook, a soft rock chorus, a funk catchphrase, like the charts themselves are talking back. It's called a break-in record, and it's basically sampling before most people even had a word for it. Here's why it fooled millions. It sounded like a real radio segment. Quick questions, quick responses, no long verses. Your brain fills in the rest, and suddenly you're laughing, while also kind of dancing. And it worked way too well. Released in September 1975, Mr. Jaws climbed to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and even hit number 1 on Cashbox. A joke built out of other hits became a hit of its own. But there's a twist people miss. Not every copy of Mr. Jaws is the same. Early pressings used the actual song clips. Once the record started blowing up, later pressings quietly swapped some of those clips for sound-alike re-recordings. So if you ever thought, wait, that doesn't sound like the version I remember, you might not be imagining things. And if that feels like chaos, the next song proves you don't even need sampling to sound like you're trolling the audience. You just need a band brave enough to go completely off the rails.
What should they do? We're going aboard the fish.
Number 7. Hocus Pocus by Focus, 1971. Some songs start normal and slowly get weird. This one does the opposite. It opens like a serious, hard-hitting statement, and then it pulls the rug out from under you. A heavy riff, a tight drummer, that respectable prog rock vibe, until suddenly you hear something that has no business being in a radio hit. Yodeling. Yes, yodeling. Like the band decided to mock the whole concept of grand, important rock right in the middle of the track. And the best part is, it doesn't feel like a joke that was written in a comedy room. The origin story is messier and way more human. Hocus Pocus was born when Focus were goofing around in rehearsal. Guitarist Jan Ackerman hits that riff, the drummer snaps in with a quick burst, and Thijs van Leer just improvises. He said he started yodeling completely spontaneously because everyone was having fun. And the insane detail is that up to that moment, he'd never yodeled in his life. He just did it. And it landed so perfectly, it feels like it was always supposed to be there. When they recorded it, they kept that "we're having a blast and we're not asking permission" energy. There aren't really lyrics, there are bursts, guitar, organ, flute, wild vocal noises, sudden shifts in mood, like every minute is saying, if you think you've got it figured out, wait 10 more seconds. Then came the part that fooled millions. Someone had the nerve to treat it like a single. The long version got trimmed down for radio, but the strangest moments stayed, because that's what made it unforgettable. By 1973, helped along by TV exposure and relentless buzz, Hocus Pocus was climbing charts like it was a normal hit, cracking the UK top 20 and the US top 10. That's the secret. It sounds like a prank on the surface,
but underneath, it's played with total seriousness. And when you mix real musicianship with fearless nonsense, the audience can't decide whether to laugh, dance, or clap. So they do all three. But the next entry moves into even trickier territory, because the next joke doesn't just mess with attitude, it plays with an entire genre, and people still argue about it today.
Number 6. Dreadlock Holiday, 10cc, 1978. This song sounds like pure summer. A lazy groove, a soft backbeat, that sticky reggae pop bounce, and a chorus so simple it feels built for a crowd to shout back. But under the sunshine is a sharper intention. It was written like a satire, a wink at reggae crossing into mainstream British pop, and at the same time at the stereotype of the tourist who thinks they can blend in by repeating a couple of phrases. The lyrics play like a quick little movie. A white narrator arrives in Jamaica, tries to act calm, drops the famous line, "I don't like cricket, I love it," like it's a secret password that should make everything fine, and then reality hits. The joke, at least from the band's perspective, isn't laughing at locals, it's laughing at the narrator, at how confident he is that he understands a place because he learned one catchy line. But once the song blows up, the classic joke hit side effect kicks in. A lot of listeners don't hear satire at all. They just hear a breezy sing-along and move on. And the success was real. Dreadlock Holiday hit number 1 on the UK singles chart, and it also topped charts in multiple other countries. An ironic commentary track getting treated like a straight-up feel-good smash. The twist is how time changes the lens. In later years, the song started getting pulled into debates about stereotypes and cultural appropriation because it leans on accent, imagery, and a tourist versus local storyline that lands more sharply today than it did in 1978. And that conversation isn't just random internet noise. Recent interviews quote Graham Gouldman acknowledging there are lines he wouldn't write the same way now, even as he's argued that Target was always the clueless tourist, and said many West Indian people he's spoken to have loved the song. So the final irony is this: a track born as a playful imitation became an anthem, and also a debate. But the next entry doesn't even try to hide behind subtlety. It goes full ridiculous, rides a real-life craze, and explodes straight into the charts.
Number 5. The Streak, Ray Stevens, 1974. This is the kind of hit that's so tied to its moment, it feels impossible to recreate. And yet, it took over everywhere. Because in early 1974, streaking became a full-on craze. People sprinting unclothed through gyms, campuses, public events, while the media treated it like the story of the week. Ray Stevens made the smartest move possible. He didn't try to explain the phenomenon. He turned it into a singable news report. The structure is a joke by design. Most of the track is spoken like a reporter covering chaos in everyday places. A supermarket, a service station, a school gym, and right in the middle of the madness comes the same panicked warning every time. Don't look, Ethel. You don't need anything graphic to get it. You just picture the situation and your brain does the rest. That's why it lands so fast. It's a movie in your head, built from short lines, with a chorus that sticks like glue. There's an extra twist that makes it even more ridiculous. Stevens said the idea hit him after he read a brief item about streaking in a news magazine while he was on a plane. He jotted it down, didn't finish it, and then the craze suddenly blew up everywhere. That's when he rushed to complete and release the song before the moment cooled off. The payoff was insane. Released in February 1974, The Streak reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 3 weeks. And it didn't stop in the US, it became an international smash and even hit number 1 in the UK. A joke song about a fad turned into the soundtrack of the fad itself.
But hold that thought, because the next entry didn't come from a passing craze. It came from a risky, long-running fantasy, getting your face on the cover of a famous magazine. And when it became real, it got weird fast.
Once again, everyone, your Action News reporter.
Number 4. The cover of Rolling Stone, Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, 1972. Here's an idea that sounds like it should fail instantly until it doesn't. Imagine writing a song that basically says, "We're not truly somebody until we're on the cover of Rolling Stone." Not as a polite request, more like a loud, exaggerated comedy sketch said to a chorus you can't shake. Then the song becomes a hit, and suddenly the magazine is stuck staring at the joke like, "Oh no, this is working." The mastermind behind it was Shel Silverstein, and he didn't go subtle. The narrator brags about the rock star image, ego, attitude, over-the-top excess, turned into cartoon form, and still feels invisible because they haven't earned the so-called ultimate trophy, the cover. The trick is the hook is too singable. One listen and you're chanting along, even while you're fully aware it's satire. Then the punchline got bigger than the band. Released in 1972, the single caught fire and climbed to number 6 in the US. And right as it was peaking, reality leaned into the joke. On March 29, 1973, Rolling Stone actually put them on the cover, but as a caricature and without splashing their name like a normal cover star. The caption was basically a wink and a slap at the same time. What's their names make the cover? They got what they wanted, just not in the way anyone pictured. There's another twist that makes it even messier. In the UK, the BBC reportedly refused to play the song because naming a commercial publication could be treated like advertising, which, of course, only made the whole thing feel louder and more forbidden. There's even a long-running rumor that the band re-recorded it with a different magazine name to dodge the rule. One of those stories that lives forever, even while band members have disputed parts of it. And once you realize a joke song could bend pop culture like that, you're ready for the next one, because the next entry is what happens when a radio guy makes a parody so huge it turns into a workplace disaster. Number 3. Disco Duck by Rick Dees and his Cast of Idiots, 1976. What you're about to hear is the kind of idea that feels impossible to turn into a real hit, and yet it got big enough to cost someone their job. Rick Dees was a Memphis radio DJ when he created Disco Duck. The concept was simple and dangerously effective. Take the sound that was swallowing everything, disco, and slap a ridiculous story on top, complete with a cartoon duck voice, like an entire dance floor had lost its mind at the same time. And the funniest irony is this song didn't even explode at the exact moment it was made. It was recorded earlier, then caught fire once disco culture was hot enough that anything with a shiny beat could turn into radio fuel. Then the story turns into something that sounds scripted. As Disco Duck started climbing, things got awkward back home. The station where Dees worked didn't want him playing his own record on the air. Other local stations also dodged it, worried they'd be promoting a competitor in the form of an artist. And according to multiple accounts, when Dees simply mentioned on his show that the song was close to the top, management called it a conflict of interest and fired him. A national smash, basically blacklisted in its own hometown. But the record didn't ask permission. It hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 on October 16, 1976, sold millions, and became a symbol of that era when novelty tracks sounded like a gag until the audience turned them into an anthem. That's why Disco Duck belongs on this list. It's not just a disco parody, it's proof that when the hook is strong enough, the public buys the joke and forces the world to treat it like something serious. Now take a breath, because the next joke hit isn't just funny, it's so convincing that a lot of people thought it was a real snapshot of an entire culture until they realized they'd been following a character the whole time.
Number 2. Convoy. C.W. McCall, 1975. If you hear Convoy with zero context, it sounds like a lost piece of history. CB slang, truckers calling each other by handles, that this actually happened energy, like someone recorded a real highway conversation and turned it into a hit. And that's exactly how it fooled so many people. A huge chunk of the audience assumed C.W. McCall was an authentic trucker singing straight from the road. But the truth is way stranger. C.W. McCall was a character originally created for old home-bread commercials by an advertising executive named Bill Fries, with music built by jingle writer Chip Davis. And in the ads, an actor played the trucker on camera while Fries supplied the voice and the writing. Even the initials weren't some mysterious outlaw identity. CW was designed to mean country and western. Here's the trick. Instead of dying as a commercial gag, the character escaped into real pop culture. Convoy was released in November 1975, rode the exploding CB radio craze, and turned into a monster. It hit number 1 on both the US country and pop charts, so this wasn't just a niche novelty, it was mass market. And because the story felt so live, people treated it like a true snapshot of the road. A massive rolling convoy, coded chatter, law enforcement trying to catch up, and that stadium-sized sense of rebellion packaged into a hook. The irony is, the mind behind it had far more practice building narratives to sell things than hauling freight. The impact got so big, the song even helped inspire a feature film in 1978. Number 1. My Ding-a-Ling, Chuck Berry, 1972. Here's the ultimate "How did this fool so many people" song, a hit that even fooled the most hardcore rock fans. Because if you know Chuck Berry, you're probably thinking of classics like Johnny B. Good or Roll Over Beethoven. Now, imagine the reaction when the king of rock and roll dropped My Ding-a-Ling in 1972. It wasn't exactly the type of track you'd expect from someone who helped shape modern rock, right? The idea behind My Ding-a-Ling was simple, but a little bold. A song playing with double-entendre, where ding-a-ling referred to both a toy, like the sound of a bell, and a popular slang for male body parts. When Chuck Berry first debuted live, he didn't just make it a gag. He involved the audience, getting them to sing along with the chorus and creating a moment of camaraderie. The lyrics weren't subtle, the kind of joke that once you get it, there's no turning back. And what seemed like a joke on stage with laughter and casual moments turned into something even more surreal when it became a number 1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1972. Yes, the man who helped shape rock was now at the top of the Billboard charts with a song about a toy, and of course something far more suggestive. It was the only single in his career to reach this feat, and for good reason. The song didn't just grab the attention of Chuck Berry's longtime fans, it also captured a much wider audience, ready to laugh and sing along at shows, in cars, and at parties. What's curious here is that, despite the song having a comedic tone, it resonated with people in a way that few novelty songs did. The chorus was catchy, and the live performances with audience participation made it more than just a passing joke. It became a phenomenon. The most ironic part? Chuck Berry, always the serious figure in rock, ended up at the top with something that many saw as a gag. So what makes My Ding-a-Ling so remarkable for this list? It's a song that wasn't meant to be taken seriously, yet it was. Even Chuck himself later joked about the single's success, saying he never imagined a song with such a silly premise would go on to be such a massive hit, like he was laughing at his own success. But the real irony is this. What started as a comedy track, a joke for the audience, was absorbed by the public so seriously that it became an anthem. And after all of that, one final question remains. How many songs you think are serious might have started out just as absurd as this? And there you have it. 10 songs that started as jokes, parodies, or experiments, and somehow fooled millions of people on their way to the top of the charts. Each of them brought something new, a catchy rhythm, an unexpected idea, or a prank that, when looked at closely, became a permanent part of pop culture. The wildest part is thinking about how these tracks went from just a joke to phenomena that defined a generation. But what does this say about the power of music? Sometimes what begins as a joke, a satire, or an experiment becomes something that unexpectedly touches us. After all, music has that unique ability to connect, surprise, and even change the way we see things. So tell me, what song did you find the most surprising? And is there any hit today that started as a parody but no one noticed? Drop a comment below. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy these crazy stories from the 70s. And if you've got suggestions for more videos like this, send them our way. See you in the next video.